Stand up to those who mock Pandey. The words of Member of Parliament for Mayaro, Rushton Parry. Those words come on the heels of the public backlash Mrs. Baaaaas is facing as a result of statements she made when she said that members of the UNC were treated as sheep during the time of Mr. Baaaaas Pandey and his executive.
I remember in the early UNC days, in the Pandey days, our supporters were sometimes treated like sheep. The hierarchy of the party at that time would tell us, bring sheep, bring sheep, bring sheep, bring people, and put us all to sit down in the crowd there in Renzi. And then the one or two fellas, every single meeting, they will talk to the sheep. I remember that. I detested that treatment of the rank and file of our membership.
Parry issued the statement captioned, "Stand up to those who mock Pandey." Throughout his public life of more than 50 years, Baaaaas Pandey exemplified servant leadership. He said for decades, Mr. Pandey displayed his servant leadership by sharing his vision and mobilizing support, even if it took place to a few people in a humble home lit with a flambeau. He utilized empathy and renowned communication skills in delivering his philosophy of an empowered people in a land of social equity and economic uplift. Mr. Pandey knew all along that he was only as good as the people who shared his mission and commitment, and he therefore cultivated ties with those on the ground. He died without Trinidad and Tobago reaching those noble goals, but he gave his all to a country that he loved and in which he believed. So we must never permit anyone to undermine and disparage Mr. Pandey's proud legacy, because in doing so we demoralize the best version of ourselves and our capacity to reach the fullest promise of our nation. So not directly chastising Mrs. Baaaaas, but given the timing of the statement, one would agree that it is in response to what Mrs. Baaaaas would have said. Now, he was not the only member of the UNC who has come out and criticized Mrs. Baaaaas. You go onto social media, you would see a lot of criticism. Many people defending Mr. Pandey and his legacy, saying that he was not the type of leader that Mrs. Baaaaas is making him out to be. Vasant Bharat too came out and said the comments made by Mrs. Baaaaas is truly an unwarranted and inexplicable attack on Mr. Pandey's legacy. Maybe the vast outpouring of love and respect demonstrated since his passing has triggered further insecurities that have manifested themselves into these patently false and divisive statements. There were also reports that the Sangre Grande constituency executive for the UNC criticized Mrs. Baaaaas for her statement. But what do you think? Do you think that the criticism is warranted? Do you think that it was an attack on Mr. Pandey's legacy? Where do you stand on this matter?